Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here with another look at Shadow of War, namely a fight with an honest-to-goodness Balrog. I undertook this story mission during a visit to Monolith earlier this month, although there was no capture available, so what you're seeing now is B-roll. Spoiler warning for this particular story mission, obviously. Anyway, it all starts off with Zog, a sorcerer, leading a bunch of cultists in a ritual to summon Targaroth the Balrog.
Targaroth! We call you to the shallows. Rise and join our glory. Rise and join the Shadow's army. Come to us. Rise. Rise. Rise.
What do they unearth?
They are summoning death. But it will be death for all.
Talion and Celebrimbor attempt to disrupt the ritual by killing everyone in the vicinity first. Learning along the way, they're at least partly responsible for bringing this particular Balrog to Middle-earth in the first place.
What an honor to meet the most famous dead man in Mordor. You really shook the world with that ring-forging trick of yours. After that, Targaroth only needed a little coaxing. Now, it rises to the surface, and it comes for you. Don't be sad. It doesn't end here. I will wake all the dead of Mordor before we're done. All the lives you ended. And once they're risen, who do you think they'll come for? Oh yes, we'll meet again.
Despite Zog being forced to flee the battle, it turns out Talion is a shade too late. Here's what happens next.
Begun. The Balrog is rising.
We'll not give it the chance.
Fools. No one can take a Balrog.
This foe is beyond us, Celebrimbor.
Not with the spirit of Kana at our side.
Woken by thrilling flames burn us. You woke him. You woke him.
As it transpires though, Talion isn't alone in this fight. He has the spirit of Carnan on his side, in this instance taking the form of an elemental Graug and keeping the Balrog distracted long enough for Talion to pepper its weak spots with arrows. Once that section is done, the fight progresses, turning into a good old-fashioned punch-up with Carnan and the Balrog both trading blows.
Compel you! Wind compel you!
Even that isn't enough to see the job done, however, with the tree Graug getting its head caved in and Targaroth slinking off to fight another day. Now this, I've been told, is just one of a few encounters Talion and Celebrimbor will have with the Balrog, with the scale of the fights escalating as they go on. Based solely on this one particular story mission, however, I have to say I found the whole thing fairly disappointing. The initial stuff with Zog and his merry band of cultists was interesting, but the arrival of and fight with the Balrog felt like a bit of an anticlimax. For one thing, the Balrog moves a little strangely. It's very swift, which feels out of place with its sheer size. And that's something that really sticks out, as I think the animation on the other creatures in Mordor is pretty good. Unfortunately, on top of that, I didn't really find the fight itself that interesting. Especially when you're controlling a beast that's just as big as your massive enemy, it kind of takes the sense of spectacle or scale out of it. It's a strange thing to come up against a character as vast or iconic as the Balrog and then find yourself controlling something the exact same size and using it to punch it repeatedly in the face. Compare this encounter to the boss fights in a franchise like God of War, and it seems lacking to the point of being a bit superfluous, almost. If the first half of this mission seemed cool and interesting while the other half felt lacking, however, I think it's down to the same problem Shadow of Mordor had with its story missions and its boss fights, namely that they just aren't the Nemesis system. As I've recently rediscovered playing through Shadow of Mordor on this channel, the Nemesis system is so good at generating those little emergent stories, those tales of woe and triumph and revenge and calculated killing, that the rest of Shadow of Mordor felt very by the numbers. The boss fights were uninteresting because they weren't tied into the Nemesis system, or any of the stories it generated. Now, it's worth noting Shadow of War differs in that story mission characters do get released into the Nemesis system, so if you wanted to track down Zog in your own time, you could, but it doesn't change the fact this boss fight is basically a standalone set piece. A set piece that, simply, isn't as interesting as the rest of the game. But hey, this was just one story mission, and it's not the only chance you'll get to fight the Balrog, so there's every chance the others will turn out to be something special. I suppose we'll have to wait and see, but for now, I hope the Balrog fight undergoes a few tweaks. I also hope we'll get to meet a few more Nemesis over the course of the game, as having them thrown into the wider world after a story introduction is a nice way to tie the two together. Anyway, feel free to share your thoughts on what you've seen in the comments below. There are plenty of other videos on Shadow of War for you to look at, including a peek at the endgame, social conquests, microtransactions, and more. Do subscribe to Eurogamer so you don't miss out on our other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.